That one wasn't bad.
Who the fuck are the Campbell Camels?
Yo, hey, you know what the best part is? I'm gonna put this in the video.
You gonna put what?
Hey, this is bloopers. What you just said.
Campbell.
Hey, all right, y'all. We'll see y'all at the next one.
Wait a minute, what? We were done already. How you just go? Hey, turn that shit off.
Welcome back to another episode of Clash of Cultures. As we continue along with our college football preview series, we're going to take a stop at North Carolina and look at the Tar Heels, Mac Brown and company. As always, if you guys are a returning viewer, we thank you guys so much for your loyal support and love as we continue on with this series. We've gotten about 300 subscribers in the last 3 weeks or so. Just basically doing a team a day kind of thing, and you guys have been loving it. Fans from all over the country have been giving us their input and their opinions. And those of you guys who are new, who just stumbled across our channel, please hit the subscribe button. It'll help us tremendously. We got another big giveaway coming at 1K. Right now we're about 450 or so, 440, I believe. As you guys saw in our TCU video, we gave away a Charlie Ward Heisman signed jersey to a Florida State fan, ironically. So that kind of worked out. So again, if you guys want to join the community, please do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, like down below, comment who you guys want to see. We have a list of some teams, but we're open to other options, who the community wants to see us do. We're going to get into a lot of other discussions, a lot of other kind of videos, college football videos closer to the season. So continue rocking with us. Me and my dad have been having so much fun doing this. And lastly, this is an opinionated podcast. So we've been getting a lot of hate in the comments from fans because, we have hot takes. And at the end of the day, subscribe to the channel and you guys could grill us for our hot takes at the end of the year. If we say Auburn's going to be 6-6 and they go 10-2, the video is up. There's proof in the pudding. So, you guys are going to see it. You guys can grill us. We got to stand 10 toes with our takes. So that's what it's going to come down to. So again, we welcome all college football dialogue, all football dialogue in general. But just remember, it's an opinionated podcast, and everybody's going to be having a different opinion. But without all that being said, what do you feel about North Carolina, and what do you think is going to happen with their season?
So first, real quick take from my man Christian. I got to have something to drink. This is really if anybody wants to advertise, this is a good advertisement opportunity. What do you say? 450 subscribers. I take about 10 sips per show. You can get your product shown. You know what I'm saying? What that's what 2,000 views. You know what I'm saying? People that can see your product. Boom. No, that's just joking. But to North Carolina, we know Drake Maye, right? Top talent at the quarterback position, and had a heck of a year last year. Over 4,000 yards passing, 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We know the numbers. We know that, really kind of 1A, 1B with Caleb Williams, especially in terms of NFL prospect. But kind of a hot take. I think he's going to have a little bit of a down year this year. If you look at this roster, you're talking about the receiving core outside of J.J. Jones really being filled with people who are from the transfer portal. So he lost Josh Downs. He lost Antoine Green. That's about 2,000 yards receiving that he's going to lose in 18 touchdowns. Josh Downs, I don't know if I said Josh Jones. Josh Downs had 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. Green had about 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Right. I think Drake Maye is a top talent. I think he's going to be a heck of an NFL quarterback. And I think he's going to prove that. But I think his numbers are going to be down from last year. I don't think he's going to be as great as he was last year. If you look at this, if you look at last year, North Carolina finished 9-5. They started out 9-1 with their only loss early coming to Notre Dame. They lost 4 games in a row late. And I think teams just started to figure out that offense. Now, again, I know there's a plethora of reasons, and I'm sure North Carolina fans are going to tell me all the things that happened in all of those games. But again, you lose your top 2 receivers, who are both very good receivers. I don't think, and I don't suspect that you're going to have as much success the following season. Even if you do gain in knowledge and ability, who you throw to is still very important, and those people still got to get open. And North Carolina doesn't recruit at the same level as some of those blue bloods. What's your thoughts, Steven?
So you think Drake Maye is going to have a down season?
In comparison to his last season only,
okay.
Right?
So you stated that they finished 9-5, I believe. 9-5.
9-5. Mm-hmm.
Wait. 9-4?
No, 9-5. They
lost
their bowl game. They lost to Oregon.
Yep. Yeah, so they lost to Georgia Tech, NC State, Clemson, and Oregon.
Yep.
Now I'm going to tell you this. This is you said your hot take is them going backwards. I think they're going to go forward this year. And now let me explain why I believe that. So I think their defense was piss poor last year. I mean, North Carolina fans, I mean, whether you guys want to agree with that or not, that's the fact. They had I think, a top 15 worst defense in total yards per game. I know ironically, they had the 11th best pass offense and the 11th worst pass defense in college football. So it's kind of weird how that worked out. They scored 34 points a game, but they gave up 31. That's not a recipe for winning. I expect their defense to be a little bit better. I know they lost their 2 corners in Storm
they lost
Duck.
4 players in the secondary.
Yeah.
So as you say this, remember,
Yeah. So, I mean, they lost Storm Duck. They lost Tony Grimes. Grimes wasn't playing until the end of the year. I don't know why he wasn't playing. He had some weird stuff going on, but he transferred. They're coming into the season ranked the 25th best team. I would say that's about right. I would agree with that. Yeah. But what I don't agree with is they only have a 14% chance to win the ACC. The reason why I don't agree with that, we'll get into their schedule later. I think they have a cupcake schedule. And that's part of the reason why I think they're going to be really good this season. They don't play Florida State. They only play Clemson in conference. So, and I think that game is going to be pretty close this year with how high scoring of an offense they have and Clemson's lack of offense last year. There's question marks surrounding that. And they play towards the end of the year. So I think that game is going to matter. But I think another thing that factors into North Carolina is when we talked about Drake Maye, he's arguably a top 3 quarterback in college football. He has the 3rd best odds to win the Heisman. I believe on FanDuel. I mean, they're all over the place with other sports books and stuff, but I know on FanDuel he has the 3rd best odds to win the Heisman. You already noted they lost 2 receivers. I think also the biggest thing for North Carolina is going to be they need to establish a run game. Drake Maye was a leading rusher for them last year, and you're not going to win football games with Drake Maye being your leading rusher. And I mean, like I said, their defense. But they did bring over some guys in the transfer portal. They lost 4 guys in secondary, like you said, but they are bringing 6 of 11 starters back. So, I mean, about half the defense. They brought in 3 veterans from the transfer portal, and Elijah Huzzy, 4 years at East Tennessee State, Derek Allen, 3 years at Georgia Tech, and Armani Chapman, 5 years at Virginia Tech. Everybody on their defense has at least 3 years of college-level experience. So I think that's going to play into their hand a little bit. So that should help. And I think I could see North Carolina having that TCU type like Cinderella season as last year. Now, I'm not saying they make it to the championship. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, North Carolina had a realistic shot last year to make it to the playoff. Obviously, they were 9-1 or they were 9-1. They were 9-1.
They were 9-1 at one point.
Yeah, and they were like in the top 12 or 11. And if they would have beaten Clemson, they would have had an argument to get in. But obviously they ended up losing, or they lost to Georgia Tech, and then they ended up losing to us.
Well, no, they lost to Georgia Tech. And then North Carolina State before
losing to Clemson. I just know that they were in the playoff conversation. Yeah. And like I said, with how their schedule is looking like it's panning out this season, I think they have a realistic shot to not only win the ACC, but to get in the playoff. And I think it's going to come down to whether Drake Maye can replicate what he did last year. You already noted that he lost 2 receivers. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the ACC is not really a defensive heavy conference. It's not as bad as like the Big 12's notion or the Pac-12. They're not going to sling the ball that much, but there's not really any top defenses in the ACC. And I mean, they lost to Clemson and they lost to Oregon late. So I mean, they only had 2 losses in conference with arguably I'm pretty sure they had the worst defense in the conference. Actually, I'm thinking about it. And they had a top 15 worst, or a worst 15, I guess you'd say, defense in the country, and they were playing in their conference championship game. So I think even if you just get a little bit better, not only could you win the conference, now they're not my pick to win the conference, but by no means I wouldn't be surprised. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, as you mentioned, the 13% rate, that's a little tough. I think with some breaks, they could be in the ACC championship, especially because what I would say is I probably have them 3rd, right behind Clemson and Florida State.
That's where I would have them.
I think they're ahead of Miami. And again, I'm basing a lot of Florida State on projections. So is it possible that North Carolina may be better than Florida State? Yes. Is it possible they may be better than Clemson? Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with you that I think the 13% is low, especially when I think they have a good chance to be in the top 2 in the ACC. And then if you're in the top 2 in the ACC, winning the conference is just winning 1 game.
Now, I will say this. I think North Carolina obviously has question marks on the defense, offensive as well. Clemson has question marks offensively. I think Florida State is really the only team that you don't really have a lot of question marks around. But last year was such an anomaly for Florida State. You don't know if they're going to be able to replicate that. If they're going to be able to continue to do it, or is it just a one-time kind of thing? So I think the ACC has a lot of question marks as a whole. I mean, Miami, we don't know what Miami's going to be. So I feel like the ACC is wide open, and that's coming from a Clemson fan. I'm like I said, I'm trying not to be biased, just because, like I said, it doesn't really do anything for me to say Clemson's going to win every game, because that's not what's going to happen. But so just to kind of get into their schedule and my thought process behind their schedule. So when I look at who North Carolina plays as first 10 games, I would probably favor them in every one of those games. And I think that's why I'm saying to see them get a TCU type run is not surprising me. The only two games that I would say legitimately I would be nervous of are Miami and South Carolina. And I'm really not nervous of any of those teams for North Carolina.
Well, let me say, and again, kind of going through my process, South Carolina is a decent team that could be.
They're gonna be all right this year.
Yeah, Pitt is Pitt, and we'll see what Syracuse brings back. They might be all right. So we talked about Miami could be okay, and then obviously Clemson. Now, I would favor North Carolina in most of those games I just named today, present day, right? Without knowing what those teams are.
Yeah.
I think I would, looking at their schedule,
I think you favor them out of 11 of 12 games.
Yeah, I'd favor them 11 of 12, but I think they'll drop an additional 2.
So the way I see it is, like I said, again, comment section, we're projecting. So on September 8th, relax. On September 16th, we may say they might be 1-2. They may be 2-1. We don't know. But I think as of right now, it is not crazy to say that they could finish the season 12-0. I don't think that's crazy to say. And again, I'm a Clemson fan. So that would mean I have them beating my own team. And just being realistic about it, when you look at this schedule, I don't think there's anybody on this schedule that I sit back like, damn, they cannot win that game. Like there's nobody on this schedule.
So I say this really, if Devontae Walker and Nate McCullum, the 2 transfer wide receivers, can replicate what the receivers did last year. If they can replicate what Josh Downs and Antoine Green did last year, then yes. If they can't, if they are not at that level, if J.J. Jones doesn't take a step up and become a big-time receiver, then I think the talent around Drake may not be good enough for him to elevate it to a place to be a high ACC team.
No, that's fair. That's very fair. And also, the reason why I think I lean more towards them having like that Cinderella type run is because their schedule is so weak and they don't play Clemson and Florida State.
I gotta quit. Who are the Camels?
I don't know who that
is. Who
is
that team?
I don't know who that is.
Are they playing a high school team?
I don't know who that is.
I've never heard of the Campbell Camels in my life.
I don't know who that is, but like I'm thinking about it. Like Clemson has to play North Carolina, Notre Dame, and Florida State. So Florida State has to play LSU, Clemson, and Florida. I mean, I truly think North Carolina may be in the conference championship. And I know I said in the Florida State and the Clemson video, I think Florida State and Clemson are going to play twice. But I think I'm going to step back on that statement. And that's just because of this schedule. Like, I truly don't see anyone but Clemson being able to beat this team. Now, again, that's projecting. Now, Miami, they could be 2001 Miami, and they could be balling, and they may beat them. But I'm saying, like, if I had to look at each game and say who's the favorite in that game, I think North Carolina is the favorite in every one of these games except the game against Clemson, at Clemson.
And
so, I mean,
go Camels.
Yo, relax, bro. but yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, they have a realistic shot to win the ACC this year. And I think 13 or 14% to win the ACC after seeing this is highly disrespectful. And that's just because I don't know who's making those odds. But I would say their floor is 9-3. What are you doing?
Oh, that's how many sips? 11.
Oh, I think their floor is 9-3, but I think their ceiling is 12-0. I do think their ceiling is 12-0.
I'm gonna say
if I had to pinpoint a record, I would say I think they're gonna go 11-1. I have Clemson beating them, but that might be my bias coming out. But I would say they're gonna finish 11-1.
I have their ceiling at 11-1 because I think they do lose to one of those teams. I have their floor at 8-4. I think they finish 10-2.
Okay, and by the way, I think 10-2 could get you into the ACC championship game.
That's a fact.
and I'm gonna cut it right there. So that one was
Who the fuck are the Campbell Camels?
Yo, hey, you know what the best part is? I'm gonna put this in the video.
You gonna put what?
Hey, this is bloopers. What you just said.
Campbell.
Hey, all right, y'all. We'll see y'all at the next one.
Wait a minute, what? We were done already. How the fuck? How you just go? Hey, turn that shit off.
I'm gonna put that part in the video.